There's a reason the basement elevator is welded shut. I hear a sound like a ribcage splintering. It happens at 2:17 a.m., just after the campus police finish their last round, and it is not the first time I've heard it. The old elevator shaft at the back of Crescent City Zoo is my station tonight, which is a mistake on someone's part. They say new hires should start at the feeding sheds to acclimate to the nocturnal shrieks and the reek of dying rats. But it's Axel's birthday, and he made it clear he'd rather sleep in the hay with the camels than trade this shift. I take the steel stairs with deliberate slowness. My night bag swings at my hip, jangling with keys, zip ties, a walkie-talkie nobody answers, and a flask that should have been coffee, but is, in fact, neither. I told myself that I'm above childish superstitions, but even the maintenance lights seem to hesitate before following me down. I try to make a joke in my head about the world's only neurotic light bulb. Instead, I get a warble of static from the walkie. Something like, "Level 2 lock-off, out." None of us talk on the radio after midnight unless we have to. I thumb the response button anyway, and the feedback nearly slips me on the next step. The shaft runs down 6 stories, a vertical coffin clad in wire mesh. At the bottom, the old express elevator lurks behind welded doors. We aren't supposed to go near it, but every few months the security logs show the call button lighting up, always at 2:17, and always for 40 silent seconds before winking back to black. I could ignore it. Axel would have. But my body's already 3 rungs ahead of my will. By level 3, my nerves have resigned themselves to cold, chemical calm. The air tastes like the time I licked a stone battery in shop class and held onto it for an hour on a dare. Down here, the charge crawls over your gums, tingles the cartilage in your nose. In the concrete dead air, I can hear the susurration from the rodent labs overhead, cages busy with animals whose intelligence has been, let's say, reinvented. The zoo's new grant money isn't for conservation, it's for experiments. I count the rungs down. 12, 11, 10. Step after step, I sense the tempo of the zoo's sleeping inhabitants, synchronized breathing and the occasional grunt from the primate wing, farther east. The bottom is always closer than I expected. Tonight, the elevator panel is already illuminated, the single red button throbbing with a menstrual glow. I trace the wire conduit from button to wall, then further into the depths where everything softens to shadow and mildew. They trained us to record anomalies, but not to solve them. Document, photograph, let the experts second-guess the evidence. Still, I pull out my phone and take a photo, the flash briefly sketching something fungal on the control panel, mold thriving on the heat of faint electricity. I step back to the landing, letting the silence bed down around me. Even the rats above are still, as if alert to something in the shaft's depths. I wrung my tongue over my teeth. There's a taste behind the chemical tang, under the battery sizzle. Old blood, the kind that's already turned brown, like pennies or iron fillings. The elevator doors are a seam in the wall, not quite flush. I kneel trying to see inside, but the mesh and the darkness make it a pure event horizon. I shouldn't touch it. Every cell from my neck to ankles protests the idea, but my hand goes forward and brushes the button. It feels alive under my finger, heatless and greasy with the film of 1,000 anxious touches. There's a whir, and then a vibration that rises into my jaw hinge and threatens to become a howl. The doors buckle and twitch, not so much opening as spasming. A tremor runs through the length of the shaft, then nothing, except the dark and the button, which fades the blackness as if nothing happened. I wait, the longest 30 seconds of my life. I can't shake the sense of contact, like I've shaken hands with a corpse and its rigor mortis lingers in my palm. There's a scraping, then a cough of dust. I crouch back involuntarily as something grinds against the doors from the inside. They tell stories about things down here. Alligators in the sewer, snakes in the drains. Once the janitor's body discovered head first in the trash compactor, compacted to the size of a suitcase. The stories are for kids, really. But how many stories were born for adults? The metal doors glisten, a rusty shudder echoing through the shaft. A sense of dread curls in my stomach, heavy as stone. I want to bolt, to scuttle back up the stairs and leave this place behind. But curiosity has settled in my bones, a parasite feeding on reason. I inch closer, peering through the gap, my heart thundering against my ribs, the pulse a metronome of impending doom. The darkness inside is thick, almost liquid, swallowing sound like black water. My fingers curl around the edge of the door, and I push again. A hesitant nudge that feels like a betrayal of my instincts. The doors creak wider, revealing just enough to hint at something lurking beyond. An oppressive stillness rushes out, clinging to me like a shroud, and the air thickens with an unbearable tension. "Show me," I whisper, though I wonder if the words are meant for the darkness or for myself. If this is my reckoning, let it be swift. I can make out shapes, something pale, a tumble of white resembling cloth, or perhaps something more akin to flesh, stretched and twisted. Shadows pulse behind it, writhing like tendrils. The floor beneath me seems to sigh, the concrete yearning to escape this moment, and for a heartbeat, I share its desire. Something shifts again. The scraping sound returns, sharper this time, like nails on slate. I jerk back, breath caught in my throat. My heart lurches, a frantic creature in its cage, and I stumble into the mesh wall, metallic and biting. No one should be in this place, not now. The sensation of something watching me tightens around my throat, and I wrestle with a primal instinct to flee. My mind races, weighing the choice between running and knowing. Both choices birthed from the same raw fear, a maelstrom of dread swirling in my gut. I wipe sweat from my brow with a trembling hand, trying to grasp the reality of what I might unearth. "Axel," I whisper, somehow hoping he'll hear me, though I know he's nestled among the camels, oblivious. My voice feels small, swallowed whole by the yawning void. I still myself, forcing myself to breathe deep, even as the air grows thicker, staler. I can almost taste the decay. I venture closer again, drawn by a morbid gravity, the shadows shifting like dark water around me. The shapes beyond the doors pulse rhythmically, a grotesque dance of sinew and bone. They beckon me with a silent promise, knowledge, or revelation, or perhaps just the bitter taste of my own demise. "Show me," I repeat, louder this time, a mantra to stave off panic. The word hangs in the stale air, pregnant with portent, and for a fleeting second, I think I see it. The outline of something human, or what was once human, suspended in the dark like an insect caught in amber. A deep rumble reverberates through the shaft, as if the very walls were groaning with centuries of secrets. My body tenses, frozen between the urge to retreat and the call to advance, a moth drawn to the hidden flame. I feel myself inching closer still, each movement a silent plea to understand what grotesque truth lies beneath the surface of this darkened abyss. The shadows undulate, and for a moment, I could swear they're alive. Alive and waiting, hungry for curiosity's harvest. My breath quickens, each inhale thick with the fetor of rot. A scent that claws at my throat and reassures me that whatever lies ahead is no mere figment of my imagination. Wisps of something long forgotten creep through my mind as I focus on the outline, a twisted form, its limbs askew like a marionette whose strings have snapped. It is there, suspended in the dark, caught between worlds. What once breathed, what once lived, now gapes at me from the shadows. I can't tell if it's the remnants of a person or some vile construct, a jigsaw of flesh and sinew born from nightmares rather than the light of day. The contours of its body become clearer, illuminated by the fever dream of my imagination. The arms extend too far, the fingers tapering into claws that glisten like obsidian. I want to scream, but the sound dies before it can escape my lips. This is no mere animal, no specimen of my training. This is something that should not exist, something that belongs to the realm of nightmares, a manifestation of all my unspoken fears. Please, I murmur, the plea tumbling from my lips like a prayer. The word floats into the dark, swallowed by the heavy silence. I don't know what I'm asking for. Mercy? Understanding? Or perhaps just the sweet release of ignorance? The creature responds with a low, vibrating hum that resonates within my bones. The hum fills the air, vibrating through my chest like the warning of a storm. Its resonance is not merely sound. It slithers under my skin, claws at my instincts. The creature before me is a tapestry of my worst nightmares, woven with threads of dread and despair. I am no longer a mere observer in the shroud of night. I'm a participant in its grotesque play. The creature shifts once more, the sharp contours of its form illuminated by an unseen light, revealing a maw, too wide, too jagged, filled with teeth that glint like polished bone. I want to recoil, to run, but my body betrays me again. I'm anchored here, tethered by the gravity of my choices. The world above feels distant, muffled, cloaked in the fog of unknowing. The jagged maw parts, but the sound that emerges is not a roar. It is a wet, mechanical crackle. A sound like a crushed larynx trying to force air through a pool of blood. Then a voice drips from the creature's jaws, hollow, distorted, and saturated with the exact frequency of radio static. Level 2. It gurgles, the tone perfectly mimicking the transmission from earlier. Lock off, out. The realization hits me with the force of physical blow. The radio silence after midnight, the intelligence of the animals being reinvested. The stories about the missing janitor, laughed off as a hazing ritual for new hires. They aren't just experimenting on animals down here. They're recycling their mistakes. The creature leans forward, stepping into the meager bleed of the maintenance lights. I can finally see the architecture of its suffering. Woven into the pale, stretched flesh and obsidian bone are the unmistakable, tattered remnants of a Crescent City Zoo uniform. A tarnished brass name tag is fused into the scarred tissue of what used to be a collarbone. I don't need to be close enough to read it to know what it says. The hollow eyes don't just drink the light, they focus on me with a terrifying, agonizingly human awareness. It remembers. It comes to the elevator every night at 2:17 a.m. because this was the exact moment its humanity was stripped away, compacted, and rebuilt into a living weapon. Axel! The creature rasps. It isn't a threat. It's a question. It's looking for him. My heart stops. Axel is supposedly asleep in the hay with the camels. Axel Axel, who made it so abundantly clear he'd rather be anywhere else tonight. Axel, who had pushed for this shift trade with a little too much desperation for a birthday he never usually cared about celebrating. He didn't just hate the basement. He knew what was waiting in it. The creature's obsidian claws shoot through the gap in the doors, gripping the wire mesh with terrifying strength. The metal groans, bowing outward under a force that shouldn't be biologically possible. The paralysis shatters. I scramble backward, my boots slipping on the slick concrete, dropping my flashlight into the dark water below. I don't wait to see if the mesh holds. I tear up the steel stairs, taking them 3 at a time, my lungs burning, the taste of pennies and battery acid flooding my mouth. Behind me, the elevator door lets out a shrieking metallic tear, followed by a wet, heavy thud against the bottom of the stairwell. I don't look back. I don't stop running until I breach the surface, bursting into the cold, clean night air of the upper zoo. The frantic, oblivious chatter of the primate wing echoes in the distance. I don't go to the camel shed to find Axel. I don't radio campus police. I keep walking until I hit the perimeter fence, scale it, and leave the radio, my keys, and my night bag in the dirt on the other side. I never read the news to see what they found the next morning. But every night, no matter where I am, I watch the clock. And when the digital numbers flip to 2:17 a.m., I sit in the dark, listening for the phantom echo of a splintering ribcage, wondering who Axel convinced to take his shift tonight.